The diner door jingled as a man in a worn flannel jacket pushed inside, shaking December snow from his shoulders. To the handful of evening customers scattered across red vinyl booths, he looked like any other worker, maybe between jobs, maybe between lives. But beneath that faded denim was Asher Lane, the millionaire CEO who secretly owned every Stargrill diner from Atlanta to Savannah. Before we begin, let me know in the comments section where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. He paused near the counter, pretending to read the laminated menu, when his eyes locked on her. Tiana Brooks stood behind the Waitress station, red uniform crisp despite the dinner rush, pouring coffee with only her left hand, her right arm tucked protectively inside her apron pocket. Her smile was bright, her voice warm as honey, but Asher could see the careful stiffness in her movements, the way she turned her body to hide something. When she reached for a sugar canister, her sleeve slipped back just enough to reveal the edge of white gauze and the purple shadow of a bruise that no amount of makeup could fully hide. What Asher would discover in that little Georgia diner would shatter everything he thought he knew about his own company, and force him to choose between protecting his cover and protecting her life. The Stargrill on Highway 74 smelled like coffee and bacon grease, sounds of clinking silverware and tired conversation filling the air. Asher had been undercover for 3 days now, working as a dishwasher under the alias Ash Donovan. 3 days of watching, listening, and learning that his empire looked very different from the bottom than it did from his corner office in Atlanta. The manager, Clint Weaver, ran the place like a drill sergeant, barking orders, cutting breaks short, threatening to dock pay for the smallest mistakes. The staff moved like ghosts, heads down, avoiding confrontation. But through it all, Tiana kept smiling. Asher had noticed her on his first day. She was the one who knew every regular by name, who asked about grandchildren and remembered birthdays, who somehow made a truck stop diner feel like community. She was also the one who flinched when Clint walked too close, who counted tips with shaking hands during her break, who whispered desperate promises into her phone about rent money she didn't have. And she was the one hiding an injury that clearly wasn't from any kitchen accident. "Girl, you need to get that hand looked at," Maddie, the veteran cook, had said yesterday. "I'm fine," Tiana had replied, pulling her sleeve down. "Just a burn from the grill." But Asher had seen burns before. He'd worked in kitchens during college, paid his dues before inheriting his grandfather's legacy. Burns didn't wrap around wrists like handcuffs. Burns didn't come with the kind of bruising he'd glimpsed on her upper arm when she'd reached for a high shelf. Tonight, the dinner rush was winding down when everything changed. A customer at table 7, a trucker who'd been nursing coffee for an hour, suddenly raised his voice. "Miss, this pie's stale. I want my money back." Tiana approached with her practiced smile. "I'm so sorry, sir. Let me get you a fresh slice." "I don't want fresh. I want a refund." Before she could respond, Clint appeared like a thundercloud. "What's the problem here?" "Your waitress is trying to serve old food," the trucker complained. Clint's face darkened. "Brooks, didn't I tell you to rotate the desserts this morning?" "Yes, sir, I did." "Don't make excuses." He grabbed the plate from the table so roughly that Tiana instinctively reached to steady it, with her injured right hand. The gasp that tore from her throat was pure agony. Her sleeve pulled back. The entire diner saw it, angry purple bruises circling her wrist, swollen knuckles wrapped in gauze that had bled through, the unmistakable marks of violence. The room went silent. "That ain't from no grill," Maddie muttered from the kitchen window. Tiana yanked her sleeve down, eyes glistening with tears she refused to let fall. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll comp the pie." "You'll do more than that," Clint snapped. "You're making a scene. Clock out and go home." "Please," Tiana's voice cracked. "I need the hours. I can't afford." "Should have thought about that before embarrassing me in front of customers." Asher watched her face crumble. He'd seen enough. Every instinct screamed to intervene, to reveal who he was, to fire Clint on the spot and protect her. But he held back. If he blew his cover now, he'd lose the chance to uncover the full truth, not just about Tiana, but about all the people suffering in silence across his chain. As Tiana gathered her things with trembling hands, Asher made a quiet decision. He pulled a napkin from the dispenser and wrote quickly, "You don't have to hide this alone. If you need help, I'm listening. Ash*." He slipped it under her time card before she reached the break room. 10 minutes later, he watched through the kitchen as she found it, read it, and stared at the words for a long moment. Then she crumpled the napkin, threw it in the trash, and walked out into the December night, alone, hurt, and convinced that nobody could help her. Asher retrieved the crumpled note from the garbage, smoothing it out with careful fingers. He didn't know her whole story yet. Didn't know who had hurt her or why she felt so trapped. But he knew this. The richest man in the room had just learned what it meant to feel completely powerless. And he wasn't going to stay powerless for long. Asher stood in the diner parking lot, the crumpled napkin still in his hand, watching Tiana's beat-up sedan disappear into the December night. The snow had stopped, leaving everything covered in a blanket of white that made the world look cleaner than it actually was. He needed to understand how he'd gotten here, how a millionaire CEO ended up washing dishes in his own restaurant, watching a woman suffer and being powerless to stop it. The answer lay 2 months in the past. The corner office on the 42nd floor of Atlanta's Piedmont Tower was all glass and steel, floor-to-ceiling windows framing a city Asher Lane had conquered by age 34. His mahogany desk held the evidence of his success, quarterly reports showing 18% revenue growth, customer satisfaction scores at 4.6 stars, employee retention rates that made HR consultants jealous. The Forbes magazine sat prominently on his credenza, his face on the cover above the headline, "The Empathy CEO, How Asher Lane Built an Empire on Second Chances." The irony would later taste like ash in his mouth. His grandfather had opened the first Star Grill diner in 1952, a single location serving biscuits and hope to working families. The old man had known every employee by name, every story behind their paycheck, every struggle they carried through his doors. Asher had transformed that legacy into 47 locations across the Southeast, each one supposedly carrying forward those same values. But somewhere between vision and execution, he'd lost something his grandfather never had: direct contact with the people who made it all possible. That realization arrived in his inbox one Monday morning. The first email had come 6 weeks earlier, sent to his private account from an anonymous address. Mr. Lane, you talk about family values in your commercials, but you don't see what's happening to your people. Someone at Highway 74 is breaking. Come see for yourself before it's too late. Asher had forwarded it to HR. They'd replied that it was likely a disgruntled former employee seeking attention. He'd accepted that explanation because it was easier than questioning the systems he'd built. Then the second email arrived. The manager at store number 23 creates a hostile work environment. Wage theft, verbal abuse, fear-based management. People need their paychecks, so they stay silent. Please investigate before someone gets seriously hurt. Again, HR had dismissed it. No official complaints filed. No pattern in our records. But the details were too specific. Too consistent. And they kept coming. The third email included a photo, a young woman in a Star Grill uniform, smiling at the camera, but with a visible bruise on her arm that makeup couldn't hide. The message scrawled beneath made his blood run cold. She comes to work hurt and everyone pretends not to see. We want to help but don't know how. The system protects the wrong people. The final email arrived on a Friday afternoon, subject line stark and damning: Highway 74 is where your legacy dies. Manager Clint Weaver runs store number 23 like his personal kingdom. He threatens, demeans, and exploits staff who can't afford to quit. Your corporate HR protects him because his numbers look good on paper. If you actually care like you claim to, come see for yourself. But don't send corporate inspectors. They're part of the problem. If you want truth, you'll have to find it yourself. Asterisk. Asher had sat in his leather chair, staring at those words for an hour. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. Asterisk, numbers tell you what's happening, son. But only people can tell you why. Asterisk. The decision formed like steel in his chest. 2 weeks later, Asher barely recognized himself in the mirror. He'd grown out his beard, traded his tailored suits for Goodwill jackets and worn jeans. He'd created an entire identity. Ash Donovan, recently laid off from a warehouse job, needed work desperately enough to take anything. His CFO and head of legal thought he'd lost his mind. "Sir, if the media discovers you're working undercover in your own restaurant." "They won't," Asher had said. "Because only you two know. Not the board, not my brother, not even my assistant." He'd applied online for the dishwasher position at Highway 74 Star Grill on a Sunday night. By Monday morning, he'd received an automated reply: "Show up Tuesday, 6 a.m. Bring ID." No interview. No questions. Just desperation dressed as efficiency. Tuesday morning arrived cold and gray. Asher drove a borrowed 15-year-old pickup truck to the diner, parking in the employee section around back. The building looked different from this angle, not the charming retro facade customers saw, but the reality of cracked pavement and overflowing dumpsters. He walked through the back entrance into a narrow hallway that smelled like grease trap and industrial cleaner. Shouting echoed from somewhere deeper in the building, a man's voice, angry and sharp. "I don't care what your schedule says. I need you here Saturday or don't bother coming back." Asher followed the sound to the kitchen where a thick-shouldered man in a manager's polo stood over a young woman in a waitress uniform. She had her right hand tucked against her chest, her head bowed. "Yes, sir," she said quietly. "I'll be here." The manager turned, noticed Asher, and his expression shifted from anger to dismissive assessment in a heartbeat. "You the new dishwasher?" "Yes, sir." "Ash Donovan." "Clint Weaver." "Manager." He didn't offer his hand. "Dish pit's back there. Don't break anything, don't steal anything, don't expect overtime. We clear?" "Yes, sir." Clint walked away, already shouting at someone else. The young woman, her name tag read Tiana, glanced at Asher with exhausted eyes that held no hope of rescue. Then she turned and walked back to the dining floor, still cradling that hidden hand. Through the kitchen window, Asher watched her transform. The defeated woman became the smiling waitress, greeting customers with warmth that seemed pulled from some reserve of strength he couldn't fathom. That's when Asher understood. This wasn't just about policy violations or management problems. This was about people breaking under a system that was supposed to protect them. And he was the one who'd built that system. Asher stood in the diner parking lot, the crumpled napkin still in his hand, watching Tiana's beat-up sedan disappear into the December night. The snow had stopped, leaving everything covered in a blanket of white that made the world look cleaner than it actually was. He needed to understand how he'd gotten here, how a millionaire CEO ended up washing dishes in his own restaurant, watching a woman suffer and being powerless to stop it. The answer lay 2 months in the past. The corner office on the 42nd floor of Atlanta's Piedmont Tower was all glass and steel, floor-to-ceiling windows framing a city Asher Lane had conquered by age 34. His mahogany desk held the evidence of his success, quarterly reports showing 18% revenue growth, customer satisfaction scores at 4.6 stars, employee retention rates that made HR consultants jealous. The Forbes magazine sat prominently on his credenza, his face on the cover above the headline, "The Empathy CEO, How Asher Lane Built an Empire on Second Chances." The irony would later taste like ash in his mouth. His grandfather had opened the first Star Grill diner in 1952, a single location serving biscuits and hope to working families. The old man had known every employee by name, every story behind their paycheck, every struggle they carried through his doors. Asher had transformed that legacy into 47 locations across the Southeast, each one supposedly carrying forward those same values. But somewhere between vision and execution, he'd lost something his grandfather never had: direct contact with the people who made it all possible. That realization arrived in his inbox one Monday morning. The first email had come 6 weeks earlier, sent to his private account from an anonymous address. Mr. Lane, you talk about family values in your commercials, but you don't see what's happening to your people. Someone at Highway 74 is breaking. Come see for yourself before it's too late. Asher had forwarded it to HR. They'd replied that it was likely a disgruntled former employee seeking attention. He'd accepted that explanation because it was easier than questioning the systems he'd built. Then the second email arrived. The manager at store number 23 creates a hostile work environment. Wage theft, verbal abuse, fear-based management. People need their paychecks, so they stay silent. Please investigate before someone gets seriously hurt. Again, HR had dismissed it. No official complaints filed. No pattern in our records. But the details were too specific, too consistent, and they kept coming. The third email included a photo, a young woman in a Stargrill uniform, smiling at the camera, but with a visible bruise on her arm that makeup couldn't hide. The message scrawled beneath made his blood run cold. She comes to work hurt and everyone pretends not to see. We want to help but don't know how. The system protects the wrong people. The final email arrived on a Friday afternoon, subject line stark and damning: Highway 74 is where your legacy dies. Manager Clint Weaver runs store number 23 like his personal kingdom. He threatens, demeans, and exploits staff who can't afford to quit. Your corporate HR protects him because his numbers look good on paper. If you actually care like you claim to, come see for yourself. But don't send corporate inspectors. They're part of the problem. If you want truth, you'll have to find it yourself. Asher had sat in his leather chair, staring at those words for an hour. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. Numbers tell you what's happening, son. But only people can tell you why. The decision formed like steel in his chest. 2 weeks later, Asher barely recognized himself in the mirror. He'd grown out his beard, traded his tailored suits for Goodwill jackets and worn jeans. He'd created an entire identity. Ash Donovan, recently laid off from a warehouse job, needed work desperately enough to take anything. His CFO and head of legal thought he'd lost his mind. Sir, if the media discovers you're working undercover in your own restaurant. They won't, Asher had said. Because only you two know. Not the board, not my brother, not even my assistant. He'd applied online for the dishwasher position at Highway 74 Stargrill on a Sunday night. By Monday morning, he'd received an automated reply: show up Tuesday, 6 a.m. Bring ID. No interview. No questions. Just desperation dressed as efficiency. Tuesday morning arrived cold and gray. Asher drove a borrowed 15-year-old pickup truck to the diner, parking in the employee section around back. The building looked different from this angle, not the charming retro facade customers saw, but the reality of cracked pavement and overflowing dumpsters. He walked through the back entrance into a narrow hallway that smelled like grease trap and industrial cleaner. Shouting echoed from somewhere deeper in the building, a man's voice, angry and sharp. I don't care what your schedule says. I need you here Saturday or don't bother coming back. Asher followed the sound to the kitchen where a thick-shouldered man in a manager's polo stood over a young woman in a waitress uniform. She had her right hand tucked against her chest, her head bowed. Yes, sir, she said quietly. I'll be here. The manager turned, noticed Asher, and his expression shifted from anger to dismissive assessment in a heartbeat. You the new dishwasher? Yes, sir. Ash Donovan. Clint Weaver. Manager. He didn't offer his hand. Dish pit's back there. Don't break anything, don't steal anything, don't expect overtime. We clear?" "Yes, sir." Clint walked away, already shouting at someone else. The young woman, her name tag read Tiana, glanced at Asher with exhausted eyes that held no hope of rescue. Then she turned and walked back to the dining floor, still cradling that hidden hand. Through the kitchen window, Asher watched her transform. The defeated woman became the smiling waitress, greeting customers with warmth that seemed pulled from some reserve of strength he couldn't fathom. That's when Asher understood. This wasn't just about policy violations or management problems. This was about people breaking under a system that was supposed to protect them. And he was the one who'd built that system. By day 3, Asher had learned the brutal rhythm of the Highway 74 Star Grill, 10-hour shifts with one 15-minute break that Clint routinely cut short, wages that barely scraped minimum, and an atmosphere so thick with fear you could taste it in the coffee. The staff moved like soldiers in a war zone, hypervigilant, watching the clock, watching Clint, watching each other's backs when they could. Maddie was the first to treat him like a human being. The 60-something cook had worked diners since before Asher was born, her weathered face telling stories of 1,000 shifts and twice as many cigarettes. She ran the kitchen with efficient grace, somehow producing perfect biscuits while chain-smoking out the back door during her stolen moments of peace. "You'll get used to it," she told him on day 2, nodding toward Clint's office. "Or you'll quit like the last 3 dishwashers." Ramon worked the line beside her, a quiet man with 3 kids and the kind of work ethic that came from knowing every paycheck mattered. Devon, the teenage busboy, juggled school and double shifts, saving every dollar for community college tuition he couldn't afford to dream about too loudly. They all worked scared. Clint Weaver ran the diner like the military boot camp he'd never quite left behind. He screamed over minor mistakes, threw plates that didn't meet his standards, and wielded his authority like a weapon. Asher watched him make sexually inappropriate comments to the younger waitresses, cut hours as punishment for imagined infractions, and threaten Ramon with deportation despite the fact that Ramon was third-generation American. "I can replace any of you by lunch," Clint said at least twice a day. And everyone believed him. But through it all, Tiana kept showing up. She was always first to arrive, last to leave. She took the worst shifts without complaint, the early mornings, the late nights, the holidays nobody else wanted. She covered for other people's mistakes, apologized for things that weren't her fault, and somehow maintained that smile even when Asher could see it was killing her. He noticed something else too: she never ate the employee meal. Always took it to go in a styrofoam container that disappeared into her bag. Saving it for later, he realized. Or saving it for someone else. Day 3, everything crystallized. The lunch rush was winding down when Tiana reached for a coffee pot on the upper warmer. It slipped. She instinctively grabbed for it with her right hand, the injured one, and the sound that came from her throat was pure agony. The pot shattered against the tile floor, glass and hot coffee everywhere. Maddie rushed over immediately. "Baby, you need to see a doctor." "I'm fine." Tiana's voice shook with pain. "I just need to wrap it tighter." Then Clint appeared, his face dark with rage. "What the hell is this?" "I'm sorry, sir. I'll clean it up right now." "Damn right you will. And that's coming out of your paycheck." Asher watched Tiana's face go white. The coffee pot cost maybe $12. She'd just lost an hour's wages for an accident caused by an injury she was trying to hide. During his break, Asher found Maddie smoking behind the dumpster. "You don't talk much, do you, Ash?" she said, studying him with knowing eyes. "Just trying to keep my head down." "Smart." She took a long drag. "This place eats people up." "What's Tiana's story?" The question came out more direct than he intended. Maddie's expression darkened. "That girl's carrying more than anyone should have to. But she won't ask for help." "What happened to her hand?" "She says the grill." Maddie crushed out her cigarette. "I say that's only half true." Closing time came at 11. Asher volunteered to stay late, mopping floors while Tiana finished her closing duties. He watched her count her tips in the corner booth, $43 for a double shift. Her hands shook as she separated the bills. Then her phone rang. "Mama, I promise I'll have the rest by Friday." Her voice was low, but sound carried in the empty diner. "No, don't ask Aunt Clara. She's already helped too much." A pause. "My hand's fine, it's healing." Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice cracked. "I'm not coming home until I can pay my way." After she hung up, Tiana sat motionless in the empty booth. Then, checking to make sure she was alone, she carefully unwrapped her injured hand. Asher's breath caught. The bandage was makeshift, the same gauze rewrapped multiple times to make one roll last. The bruising was worse than he'd thought, not just burns, but impact marks. Defensive wounds. The kind that came from blocking blows. Tiana allowed herself exactly 1 minute to cry. Silent tears that streamed down her face while her shoulders shook. Then she wiped her eyes, rewrapped her hand with practiced efficiency, and stood up. She started cleaning tables that were already clean, needing the motion, needing the purpose, needing anything but stillness. Asher sat in his truck in the parking lot, waiting until Tiana's taillights disappeared before pulling out his phone. He accessed the employee database remotely, pulling up her file with a few keystrokes. Tiana Marie Brooks. Age 26. Hired 14 months ago. 0 complaints. 0 sick days. 3 customer commendations. Asterisk asterisk. Emergency contact, Denise Brooks, mother. Dependent, Micah Brooks, age 14. Asterisk asterisk. Current address, Pine Valley Trailer Park, Lot 37. He Googled the address. Pine Valley was one of the most economically depressed areas in the county, the kind of place where people ended up when every other option had failed them. The file told him what she did, but it didn't tell him who hurt her, or why she was protecting them. By day 5, Asher's dishwasher station had become his observation post. The layout put him directly adjacent to the Waitress station where Tiana picked up orders, refilled coffee, and assembled trays with her one good hand. They developed a rhythm, small interactions that felt significant in their ordinariness. He'd pass her clean plates. She'd murmur thank you without meeting his eyes. He'd restock her silverware. She'd nod in acknowledgement. But Asher noticed everything. The way she flinched whenever Clint's voice rose, even when he wasn't yelling at her. How she turned her body to hide her injured hand when customers got too close, like a wounded animal protecting its vulnerable side. How her smile, once bright enough to light the whole diner, never quite reached her eyes anymore. Saturday's lunch rush brought the tension to a breaking point. The diner was packed, every booth filled, the air thick with conversation and the clatter of silverware. Tiana was juggling 6 tables, running on fumes and sheer determination. Asher could see the exhaustion in her movements, the careful way she rationed her energy. Then table 8 erupted. "This steak is overcooked." A man in an expensive polo shirt held up his plate with theatrical disgust. "I ordered medium rare, not shoe leather." Tiana approached quickly, her professional mask firmly in place. "I'm so sorry, sir. Let me take that back to the kitchen." "Too late. You've already ruined my lunch." Asher could see the steak from the kitchen window. It was perfect medium rare, exactly as ordered. This was a scam, and everyone knew it. Everyone except Clint, who materialized like a storm cloud. "What's the problem here, sir? Your waitress can't get a simple order right." "Tiana." Clint's voice was cold. "Apologize to this gentleman." "I'm very sorry, sir." "Comp his entire meal," Clint continued. "And the cost comes out of your tips." The customer smirked, knowing he'd won. Asher watched Tiana's jaw tighten, watched her hands ball into fists, then deliberately relax. "Of course, sir. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. The lunch cost $23. Nearly half her day's tips gone. Asher's break came an hour later. He found Tiana sitting on the back steps, rotating her wrist carefully, wincing with each movement. She didn't notice him at first, too focused on whatever pain she was trying to work through. He sat on the opposite end of the step, not too close, and held out his bottled water. She looked up, surprised. Then, after a moment's hesitation, accepted it. Thanks. They sat in silence for a moment before Asher spoke. How long you been working here? 14 months. She took a sip of water. You. Few days. Feels like longer. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. Yeah. It does that to you. The conversation unfolded slowly, carefully, like two strangers testing the ice before stepping onto it. Small talk about the job, the customers, the weather. But then Tiana's guard dropped just slightly. I've got a little brother, she said, staring at the parking lot. 14. Smart as hell, wants to go to college someday. She paused. My mama's got medical bills from a stroke last year. So I can't afford to lose this job, you know? Can't afford to make waves or stand up to Clint or anything really. She didn't mention the injury. Didn't explain the bruises. But the weight of what she wasn't saying hung heavy in the December air. That evening, Maddie pulled Asher aside while he was scrubbing a stock pot. I see you looking out for Tiana, she said quietly. That's good. But be careful. Careful of what? Her ex. Lamar. Maddie's expression darkened. Works security at the Shell station up the road. He's the reason she walks to her car with her keys in her fist. Asher's blood ran cold. Did he? I don't know. And she won't say. Maddie lit a cigarette with shaking hands. But a man doesn't follow a woman who left him unless he thinks she's still his property. That night, Asher made a decision. Before leaving, he wrote on a napkin, *, you don't have to carry this alone. If you ever need help, real help, I'm listening. Ash*. He folded it carefully and left it under her time card. The next morning, he watched from the kitchen as she found it. Saw her read it during a quiet moment, saw her eyes well up with tears. She blinked back. She looked around to see if anyone was watching. Then she crumpled it and threw it in the trash. Asher's heart sank, not from wounded ego, but from understanding. She'd been let down before. Promises meant nothing when every system designed to help had already failed her. Later, while taking out the garbage, he retrieved the crumpled napkin. Smoothed it out with careful fingers. At the bottom, in her handwriting, she'd added 6 words, * you can't help. Nobody can. *. That night, sitting in his truck with a note on his dashboard, Asher made a call. Lane Security, Marcus speaking. I need deep background on someone. Name's Lamar, works security at the Shell station, Highway 74. Boss, what's going on down there? Something that should have been stopped a long time ago. He hung up and looked back at the diner. Through the window, he could see Tiana's silhouette, wiping down tables in the empty restaurant, still working long after everyone else had gone home. He'd built an empire on second chances. But what good was any of it if the people who needed chances most were invisible to everyone, including him? Friday night hit the Highway 74 Star Grill like a hurricane. The diner was packed, locals filling booths, truckers claiming counter seats, high school kids streaming in after the football game with their faces still painted in school colors. The jukebox played classic country, energy crackling through the air along with the promise of good tips. For most of the staff, Friday night meant opportunity. For Tiana, working her second double shift that week, it meant survival. Asher watched her move through the chaos with practiced efficiency, her exhaustion visible in the slight drag of her steps, the way she cradled her injured hand against her chest between tables. She'd been there since 6 that morning, covering for someone who'd called out. 14 hours and counting. But she kept smiling. Kept moving. Kept surviving. Then table 7 happened. The trucker was a regular scammer. Asher had seen him pull the same routine at a different Star Grill location during a corporate visit months ago. He ordered the meatloaf special, ate most of it, then flagged Tiana down with theatrical indignation. "This is cold. I want a refund." Tiana's response was textbook professional. "I'm so sorry, sir. Let me heat that up for you." "I said refund. And I ain't paying for the coffee either." Asher could see the meal ticket from the kitchen. The food had gone out 8 minutes ago, perfect temperature. This was theft dressed as complaint, and everyone knew it. Everyone except Clint, who emerged from his office like a predator scenting blood. "What's the problem here?" "Your girl can't get an order right," the trucker said smugly. "I want my money back." Clint didn't even glance at Tiana. "Did you screw up the ticket?" "No, sir. I double-checked it, the kitchen." "Don't make excuses." The diner's noise level dropped as people sensed drama unfolding. Asher's hands stilled in the dishwater, every muscle tensing. "You take this back," Clint snapped at Tiana. "You apologize, you comp his meal and give him dessert. And you stay 2 hours after close to make up the loss." Tiana's voice shook. "Sir, I've been here since 6 a.m. You got a problem with how I run things?" The question hung in the air like a threat. The entire diner had gone quiet now, everyone watching. "No, sir," Tiana whispered. She reached for the plate. Clint grabbed her wrist, the injured one, to pull it away roughly. The sound that tore from Tiana's throat was pure agony. Her sleeve pulled back, and the entire diner saw what she'd been hiding. Purple-black bruises circling her wrist like fingerprints, split knuckles that hadn't healed, swelling that spoke of breaks or fractures beneath the skin. "Lord have mercy," Maddie breathed from the kitchen window. "That's not from any grill," someone whispered. "Somebody needs to call the police," another voice added. Tiana yanked her arm back, pulling her sleeve down with trembling fingers, tears already streaming down her face. Clint's response was ice cold. "You been fighting on your personal time?" "No, it's not," her voice broke completely. "Because I can't have that kind of drama associated with my restaurant. You understand?" She nodded, unable to speak. "Clean yourself up. Get back to work. Or don't bother coming back tomorrow." Every muscle in Asher's body screamed to intervene. His hands gripped the edge of the industrial sink so hard his knuckles went white. The millionaire CEO who could buy and sell this entire building wanted to throw Clint through the front window. "Easy man," Ramon muttered, noticing. "That's just how Clint is." "Somebody needs to knock that man into next Sunday," Maddie hissed. "Someone will," Asher said quietly. The diner finally closed at 11. Asher found Tiana in the break room, rewrapping her hand with shaking fingers, makeup running in tracks down her face from silent tears. He appeared in the doorway with the first aid kit. "Let me help." "I don't need." "Tiana, please." She was too exhausted to argue. He sat across from her and gently unwrapped the makeshift bandage. The injury was worse than he'd imagined. Defensive wounds, impact trauma, days old and getting infected. "This needs a doctor." "Can't afford it." "The ER has to treat you regardless." "And send a bill I can't pay." "Then what? Bankruptcy? Lose the apartment? Where does Micah go then?" Her voice was hollow, defeated. "You don't understand. There's no safety net. There's just me." Asher cleaned the wound carefully, his hand steady even as his heart broke. "Who did this to you?" Long silence. Tiana's eyes met his, searching for judgment, for pity, for the disbelief she'd encountered before. She found only quiet concern. "If I tell you, nothing changes. You know that, right?" Try me. Another pause. Then, barely a whisper, his name is Lamar. Asher finished bandaging her hand with proper gauze and medical tape. You don't have to go through this alone. Tiana stood, exhausted beyond measure. I've been alone since this started. Alone is safer. She left through the back door. Asher watched her walk to her car, a 20-year-old sedan with a dented bumper. She checked the back seat before getting in, scanned the parking lot with the careful vigilance of prey. The behavior of someone being hunted. Asher pulled out his phone and sent a single text to his security chief, *Lamar. I need everything. Tonight. Because if the system wouldn't protect her, he'd burn the system down himself. The hotel room was cheap and anonymous, exactly what a laid-off warehouse worker named Ash Donovan could afford. Asher sat on the edge of the bed at 2 a.m., his laptop open, waiting. The encrypted email arrived with a soft chime. Subject: Lamar Dwayne Foster, full background. Asher's jaw tightened as he read. Age 29. Part-time security at the Shell station on Highway 74. 2 domestic violence complaints filed, both mysteriously dropped. A restraining order filed by a previous girlfriend, expired now, but the pattern was there in black and white. His social media listed him as in a relationship with Tiana Brooks, though she hadn't posted anything in 6 months. Known to frequent Stargrill during Tiana's shifts. Known to wait in the parking lot. Known, but never stopped. The social media deep dive was worse. Photos from 8 or 9 months ago showed them smiling together, Tiana's smile genuine then, reaching her eyes. Lamar's arm possessively around her shoulders at a church barbecue, at a basketball game, in front of her trailer. Then the photos stopped. Lamar's recent posts made Asher's blood boil, vague threats disguised as philosophy, possessive quotes like "what's mine stays mine," and pictures clearly taken near the diner, near her trailer. Stalking documented in real time, visible to anyone who cared to look. Tiana's page was dormant. Her last post was from 6 months ago, a photo of a church service, caption reading simply, "Grateful." Asher closed the laptop and didn't sleep. Sunday morning, he arrived at the diner early and found Tiana's car already in the lot. Inside, she was setting up the coffee station, moving slowly like every motion hurt. When she turned toward the light, Asher saw it, a new bruise on her cheekbone, covered with makeup but visible to anyone looking closely. He waited until her break, found her in the back hallway. That wasn't there yesterday. He gestured gently toward her face. She touched it instinctively, winced. "I'm clumsy." "You're a lot of things, Tiana. Clumsy isn't one of them." She looked at him for a long moment, something shifting behind her eyes. "You really want to know?" "I really want to help." She laughed, but it was bitter, broken. "You sound like the cops. The lawyer. The social worker. They all wanted to help." She paused. "Want to know what happened to all that wanting?" "Tell me." The story came out slowly, painfully, like pulling shrapnel from a wound. She'd met Lamar a year ago at a church barbecue. He'd been charming, attentive, said all the right things. Helped with her mother's medical bills, took Micah to basketball games, made her believe in partnership again after years of doing everything alone. They moved in together after 4 months. "That's when things changed," she said quietly. "It started with jealousy, who she talked to, what she wore, why she smiled at customers. Then isolation, made her quit church, stop seeing friends, convinced her that everyone else was trying to pull them apart. Then control, took her paychecks for safekeeping, monitored her phone, tracked her movements. The first time he hit her was 5 months ago. Backhanded her for disrespecting him in front of his friends. Apologized with flowers and tears, promised it would never happen again. It happened again. And again. 3 months ago, Lamar put Micah in a headlock during an argument. That night, while Lamar worked the graveyard shift, Tiana packed 2 bags and ran. Women's shelter first, then the trailer park when she'd saved enough for a deposit. She filed a police report. Started restraining order paperwork. The officer was nice, Tiana said hollowly. Real sympathetic. Said unless Lamar violates a court order, their hands are tied. Restraining order's been pending for 3 months. Backlog in family court, they said. Meanwhile, Lamar knew where she worked. Showed up in the parking lot, at the gas station across the street, drove by her trailer. Never did anything technically illegal. Just watched. Just reminded her he was there. 2 weeks ago, he caught her leaving work. Grabbed her wrist, slammed it against her car door. Whispered, "You think you can leave me? You think you're safe?" Then he threatened Micah. Accidents happen to kids who don't watch where they're going. I called the cops 4 times after that, Tiana said. They drive by, he's gone. They ask if I want to press charges. For what? Standing in a public parking lot. Her voice cracked. The shelter said I could come back, but Micah can't stay there. He's with Mama now, an hour away. If I make trouble, Lamar finds him. So I keep my head down, save money, and pray he gets bored. Asher struggled to control his rage, not at her, but at every system that had failed her. You deserve better than survival. Maybe. But deserving and getting are 2 different things. She stood to return to work, then paused. Why do you care, Ash? You've been here a week. Most people look right through me. Asher almost told her the truth, that he owned this company, that he could protect her. But he realized she didn't need a savior. She needed a system that actually worked. Because nobody should have to live in fear. Especially not while they're just trying to live. Tiana studied his face, nodded slowly. You're different. I don't know why, but you are. She returned to the floor. Asher stepped outside and made a call. I need a restraining order expedited. I don't care what it costs. I need it before tomorrow night. Sir, the courts don't work that. Make them work. Now. He hung up and looked back through the diner window at Tiana serving coffee with her broken hand and bruised face. The law had failed her. Her employer had failed her. But Asher Lane wasn't about to let one more system crush the woman who'd already survived too much. The dinner rush was winding down, the diner settling into the comfortable rhythm of Sunday evening. Tiana seemed lighter somehow, like sharing her story had lifted some invisible weight. She joked with Maddie about a burnt batch of biscuits, smiled warmly at a little girl who dropped her crayons, even hummed along with the jukebox. Asher thought maybe, just maybe, they had time to handle this properly. Get the restraining order, involve the right authorities, protect her the legal way. He was wrong. At 7:47 p.m., the bell above the door jingled. Asher was in the kitchen loading the dishwasher when he heard Maddie mutter, "Oh hell no." He looked up. The man who walked in was 6'3", 220 pounds of muscle wrapped in a security uniform. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no, his eyes scanning the diner until they locked onto Tiana like a predator spotting prey. "Hey baby," Lamar said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We need to talk." Tiana stood frozen at the coffee station, pot trembling in her hand. All color drained from her face. "You can't be here," she whispered. Lamar smiled. Dangerous, possessive. "It's a free country. I can eat where I want." The atmosphere shifted instantly. The older couple in the corner booth exchanged worried glances. The trucker at the counter tensed, hand moving toward his phone. Other customers looked between Tiana and Lamar, sensing something wrong. "Tiana, honey, you okay?" Maddie called from the kitchen window. Tiana couldn't speak. Then Clint emerged from his office. Instead of protecting his employee, his face broke into a smile. "Lamar, buddy, how you been?" They knew each other. Of course they did. "Don't just stand there," Clint said to Tiana. Get the man some coffee. Tiana's hand started shaking so violently the pot rattled against the warmer. Asher moved without thinking. He stepped from the kitchen onto the floor, positioning himself between Tiana and Lamar. She's working. You can order food to go, or you can leave. The diner went silent. Lamar sized him up slowly. Who the hell are you? Someone who respects boundaries. Lamar laughed, but there was no humor in it. Tiana, you got a new boyfriend? That why you been avoiding me? Lamar, please just go. Tiana's voice shook. Not until we talk. Just 5 minutes, baby. That's all I'm asking. He took a step toward her. Asher mirrored the movement, blocking him. She said no. Lamar's expression darkened. You got a big mouth for a dishwasher. And you've got no right to be here. Ash, back off, Clint intervened. Let them talk. This is between them. The hell it is. Maddie shouted from the kitchen. Ramon appeared, gripping a heavy pan. She don't want to talk to him, Clint. Everyone calm down, Clint said. We don't need drama. The drama walked in with him. Asher cut him off. Lamar's attention swung back to Tiana, ignoring everyone else. Baby, I miss you. Micah misses me. Your mama misses me. Why you gotta make this so hard? Tiana's voice cracked. You threatened my brother. I was upset. You know I didn't mean it. You always say that. Lamar's mask slipped, anger flashing across his features. I've been patient. Real patient. But you're testing me. He moved toward Tiana again. Asher put a hand on his chest. That's close enough. Lamar shoved him hard. Move. The trucker stood up. The older man pulled out his phone. Maddie grabbed the restaurant phone. I'm calling 911. Lamar ignored them all, eyes fixed on Tiana. You really want to do this here? In front of all these people? You want them to know your business. Asher saw Tiana trembling, saw tears streaming down her face, saw Lamar's hand reaching for her wrist again, and made his decision. He pulled out his phone and dialed on speaker. Lane Security, this is Marcus. This is Asher Lane, he said clearly, eyes locked on Lamar. I need police at Stargrill Highway 74. Immediate threat to employee safety. Officers here in under 5 minutes. Yes, sir, Mr. Lane. Dispatching now. The diner went dead silent. Wait, what? Clint's face went pale. Asher Lane. Maddie gasped. The Asher Lane. Lamar looked confused. What the hell are you talking about? Asher turned to face the room. I own this diner. I own this entire chain. And you, he pointed at Lamar, are never setting foot in any of my establishments again. Tiana stared at him, disbelief and betrayal washing over her face. You what? I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. You've been lying to me? Her voice broke. I've been trying to help you. Her eyes filled with angry tears. I don't need saving. I needed a friend. Lamar, realizing he was outmatched but unwilling to back down, sneered. I don't care who you are. Tiana's my girl, and this is between us. The police will be here in 3 minutes, Asher said coldly. Leave now, or leave in handcuffs. Lamar turned to Tiana. You really gonna let this rich boy fight your battles? Tiana found her voice, stronger now. Get out, Lamar. Tiana. Get out. Sirens wailed in the distance. Lamar backed toward the door, pointing at Asher. This ain't over. Then at Tiana, you're making a mistake, baby. A big mistake. He left just as patrol cars pulled into the lot. Tiana turned to Asher, voice shaking with anger and confusion. Who are you? Someone who should have told you the truth from the beginning, Asher said quietly. She walked into the back room. The door slammed behind her. Asher had saved her from Lamar. But he'd just lost the one thing that mattered most, her trust. 2 officers took statements from everyone: Tiana, Asher, Maddie, the customers who'd witnessed everything. Lamar was gone, but patrol units were searching for him. "Ma'am, with these witness statements, we can expedite that restraining order," the younger officer told Tiana. She nodded numbly. "Okay. Do you want to press charges for the previous assaults? The injuries documented tonight." Tiana hesitated, glanced at Asher, then looked away. "I need to think about it." After the police left, Asher closed the diner early. The staff stood in stunned silence, processing what they just witnessed. Clint was pale, stammering. "Mr. Lane, I had no idea you were." Asher held up a hand. "We'll talk tomorrow. In private." He turned to the others. "Everyone goes home with full pay for tonight." Then quietly, "I need to speak with Tiana." She was in the break room, pacing like a caged animal. Asher entered cautiously. "Tiana. Don't." Her voice was ice. "Don't come in here with your apologies and your money and act like you know what I need. I was trying to protect you." "By lying to me? By pretending to be someone you're not?" "I never pretended about the things that mattered." "You think because you own this place, you own me?" Tiana's voice rose. "You think you can just swoop in and fix everything? That's not what this was." "Then what was it? Some kind of game? Undercover boss wants to feel good about himself." "I came here because employees were being hurt," Asher said carefully. "I stayed because you." "Because what?" "Because poor little Tiana needed saving. Because you showed me what real courage looks like." Tiana's voice broke. "I told you things. Real things. Things I haven't told anyone. And I'm grateful you trusted me." "I trusted ASH. The dishwasher who had nothing. Not Asher Lane, the millionaire who was studying me like some kind of project." Tears streamed down her face. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Explain it to me." Asher took a breath. 2 months ago, I got letters from people who work for me. People who were suffering. And I realized I'd built this company on values I wasn't actually living. So this was about your conscience." "It started that way," he admitted. "But when I met you, when I saw what you were carrying alone, it became about something else. Doing what I should have done from the beginning. Seeing the people who make my company run, instead of just the numbers." Tiana sat heavily, exhausted. "You should have told me." "I know. I felt like someone finally saw me. Not the waitress, not the victim, just me." "I did see you," Asher said quietly. "I still do. How can I believe anything you said? How do I know what was real?" He sat across from her. "The note I left you, that was real. Wanting to help, that's real. Being angry that the system failed you, that's real. My name was fake. My job title was fake. But everything I said to you in that parking lot, in this break room, that was the most honest I've been with anyone in years." Tiana wiped her eyes. "What happens now? That's up to you. Don't put this on me. You're the one with all the power here." "No. You have all the power. You decide if you want to press charges against Lamar. You decide if you want to keep working here. You decide if you ever want to speak to me again. And what can you offer?" Her voice was bitter. "Full medical coverage for your hand, no cost. Paid leave while you heal. A restraining order backed by a legal team that won't stop until it's enforced." "Why?" "Because it's what should have been available to you from day one." "And if I say no?" "Then I respect that. but the offer stands. His phone rang. He stepped out, returned 5 minutes later. Clint Weaver has been terminated effective immediately. HR is reviewing every employment practice at this location. Tiana's eyes widened. You fired him? He created a hostile work environment and endangered his staff. He should have been fired a long time ago. What about me? Tiana asked quietly. What about you? Do I still have a job? Asher looked genuinely confused. Why wouldn't you? Because I yelled at the owner? Tiana, you have a job here as long as you want one. And if you don't want to work here anymore, I'll help you find something else. No strings. Long silence. I don't know if I can trust you yet. That's fair. But, thank you. For tonight. For standing up to him. You were already standing. I just made sure you weren't alone. Maddie poked her head in. Tiana, honey, I'm driving you home tonight. No arguments. Tiana nodded, grabbed her purse. At the door, she turned back. Asher, whoever you are, my brother has a basketball game Thursday night. If you're still around, and if you actually meant what you said about being real, you could come. Asher was surprised, moved. I'd like that. She almost smiled. Don't wear the flannel. You look ridiculous in it. She left with Maddie. Asher sat alone in the empty diner, the weight of his choices settling around him. He'd come here to find the truth. He just hadn't expected it to cost him his own disguise, or to find someone who made him want to be honest about everything else. The Highway 74 Star Grill looked different now, fresh paint on the walls, new equipment in the kitchen, an employee break room with actual comfortable seating instead of plastic chairs. But the biggest change wasn't visible in the decor. Maddie ran the floor now, promoted from cook to manager with benefits and actual authority. Ramon was assistant manager, his 3 kids finally covered by health insurance. Devin had received a scholarship, anonymously funded, that would get him to community college next fall. Staff meetings happened weekly, and people actually had voices. Wages had increased across the board. Mandatory breaks were enforced, not suggestions. The diner felt different because people weren't afraid anymore. Tiana had taken a week of paid leave to see a doctor and properly treat her hand. Physical therapy was covered by the new insurance plan. She'd return to work with an adjusted schedule, no more doubles unless she chose them. Twice a week, she saw a counselor to process the trauma she'd carried alone for too long. And with Asher's legal team behind her, she'd pressed charges against Lamar. The restraining order was granted and enforced. When Lamar violated it the first week, driving by the diner just to remind her he was watching, he got 30 days in jail. Tiana had testified in court with her attorney present, her voice steady, her hand properly bandaged. For the first time, the system worked. She knew it wasn't fair that it took wealth and resources to get justice. But she was learning to accept help without shame. Asher hadn't gone back to Atlanta. He'd rented a house nearby, working remotely, showing up at the diner twice a week as a customer now instead of an employee. He'd attended Micah's basketball game. They'd lost, but Asher bought pizza for the whole team afterward. He'd met Tiana's mother, Denise, who'd looked him up and down with a discernment only a mother possessed and said, "You better be who you say you are, because my daughter's been hurt enough." "Yes, ma'am," he'd replied. "I'm trying to be." Micah had been blunt after the game. "You the rich guy. I'm the guy who thinks your sister is pretty remarkable." The 14-year-old had considered this. "She is. You hurt her, and I don't care how much money you have." They'd shaken hands solemnly. Then Micah had grinned. "Also, can you get me a job when I'm 16? Micah. Tiana had groaned. Asher had laughed. "Ask me when you're 16. Present day. They met at a coffee shop, neutral ground, not the diner. Tiana wore a brace on her wrist, but the swelling had gone down. Asher brought 2 coffees, remembering she took hers with cream and too much sugar. I've been thinking about what you said, Tiana began. About power. Yeah. I spent so long thinking I had none. That I just had to survive whatever came at me. She paused. Now I'm learning that asking for help isn't weak. And that the system being broken doesn't mean I'm broken. Asher smiled. I've been thinking too. About why I really went undercover. Why did you? I told myself it was about integrity. About being a better CEO. But I think I was looking for something real. Everyone in my life wants something, has an angle. I thought maybe I'd remember what actually matters. Did you? Yeah. I met someone who survived impossible things and still smiled at strangers. Someone who had every reason to be bitter and somehow wasn't. Tiana looked down at her coffee. I'm bitter sometimes. You're human. That's what I mean. You're real. So what is this? She asked quietly. What are we doing? Honestly? I don't know. I just know I don't want to stop talking to you. We're from different worlds, Asher. I know. And people are going to have opinions. But let them. Tiana laughed softly. Easy for you to say. Asher reached across the table, stopping just short of her hand. Can I? She nodded. He took her hand gently, the injured one, careful with the brace. I don't have all the answers. I don't know if this makes sense on paper. But I know I'm better when I'm around you. More honest. More me. I'm still scared, Tiana admitted. Hope is dangerous when you've been disappointed enough times. Then don't hope. Just be here. Right now. And we'll figure out tomorrow when it comes. She squeezed his hand. Okay. One day at a time. That evening, Tiana finished her shift at the diner. Co-workers greeted her like family because they were. A regular asked about her hand, and she told the truth, healing. It takes time, but I'm getting there. She walked to her car, still old, still dented, but parked under a new security light. Her phone buzzed. Asher *** dinner this weekend? Somewhere that's not a diner. **. She smiled, typed back, ** only if I'm not paying. I know you're good for it. **. Asher ** face with tears of joy, it's a date. Another message, * proud of you by the way. For everything. **. Tiana ** still figuring it out. But thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. **. Asher ** you were never invisible. I just had to learn how to look. **. As she drove away, Asher sat in his car across the street, watching to make sure she left safely, a promise he'd made to himself. She waved as she passed. He waved back. 2 people from different worlds, finding their way toward the same truth, that sometimes the most valuable thing you can offer someone isn't money, it's witness. It's saying, I see you. I believe you. And you're not alone. Some stories end with rescue. This one ended with choice. The choice to be seen. The choice to be honest. The choice to believe that broken things, people, systems, hearts, can heal if someone cares enough to try.
Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed this story, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the videos on your screen to watch more powerful stories just like these.